Mm.
Michael, how are you, sir?
Hey, Ricky, I'm okay. I've kind of gotten in trouble.
Oh
I know
no.
yeah, with the missus.
What did you do this
Well,
time?
she had me go to the store to get her a few things, so I went to the
Mhm.
drugstore, got a few
Okay.
things, some of the things that she likes, just
Okay.
shampoo, hair, uh, you know, lipstick, chapstick, that kind of stuff. So probably
Okay.
doing a good thing. And then I got back home and um, I didn't realize that I accidentally bought her glue stick instead of chapstick. Uh, so, sh- uh, so she's not talking to me right now.
It's the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Shillay.
And my good friend and always compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe.
She's not talking. Yeah.
Hey,
give you
folks, welcome
give you
to
my
the
lurch
show.
voice.
Folks, welcome to the show. And tonight we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian season 3. It's not out yet. Hey, it's going to be out next week. But today we're going to have
As of this recording.
as of this recording, this is our pre-Mandalorian season 3 show. We're going to talk a little bit about catching up to where we're at in the season,
Mhm.
and a little bit about what we saw in the trailer and our predictions that's coming up, and we're just going to play around with some what ifs. So it's going to be going to be fun tonight, and we're going to, of course, got nerdy news, stupid news, and all that stuff. So just
Absolutely.
hang out. So man, there's a lot of stuff going on. As always, we've
Mhm.
got some nerdy news.
Yes,
uh,
yes.
you said you had some nerdy news yourself. Anything you want
Yes.
to cover?
So, latest on from Warner Brothers,
Uh-huh.
not about DC. Warner Brothers Pictures
Mm-hmm.
is saying they're going to be revamping the Lord of the Rings film franchise.
Yes.
Not sure what that all means, but they the studio hasn't really been super explicit on what their plans are. But no filmmakers have been attached to the projects yet.
No.
But they plan on doing something that is tied in with the Lord of the Rings
Mm-hmm.
and or the Hobbit, which
Yeah.
will be a little different than what Amazon did, which
Yeah.
is all pre that.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine they're going to just remake the films.
I don't think so. A lot of fans, I think they want to concentrate Middle Earth rather than do a remake of like Frodo's story. So I have a feeling that, I mean, it's kind of like a lot of origin stories. Most fans already know it,
Mm-hmm.
and um, there's an entire universe within Lord of the Rings that can be, to really mine into some really good stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, there's if we're going with the Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings, I mean, we can see backstories of different characters. We
yeah,
could see, we could see parallel stories, things that were
yeah,
going on during this time
yeah,
that aren't really covered in the book. I don't know. It could be interesting. I'm a little, I'm curious, but I don't know that I'm hopeful.
yeah. I mean, there's always that chance of screwing up something that's already good, and so hopefully,
Yes.
and we know all about that. Just seeing some of the reboots and some of the uh, artful, creativity that
Hmm.
leans towards somebody else's storytelling. So, yeah. Speaking of artistic mistakes. I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you heard about Roger the musical is coming to Disneyland Resort this summer.
Oh
Uh,
Lord,
yeah,
no, really?
yes, hold on to your Broadway hats, folks. The hit,
Oh,
yes, the hit fake musical from Marvel's Hawkeye series, Rogers a Musical, is making its way to the Hyperion Theater at Disneyland, California Venture Park this summer. That's right. You
at
can
least
now,
it's going to be at Disneyland, which
yes,
okay.
yeah,
So that's kind of kitschy and funny and weird. I, I'll buy that. At least they didn't try to do like an actual Broadway show.
yeah, and that would be a bomb. I mean,
Well, there was Spider
uh,
Man,
of course,
Spider
yeah,
Man, something in the dark. I don't remember what it was called, but the Spider Man show was a flop.
yes. Yeah. So, folks, when you head to that destination, you'll have a chance to see something that is unforgettable. and uh,
Unforgettable might be the right word for it.
yes, uh,
Unforgettable, unbelievable.
yeah,
Ah.
something that was really good. Before the show, you had a chance to watch this trailer at Tetris. It looks
Yes.
It's unfortunately it's on Apple TV, which I do not have. But man, it looks really good. It's a biographical drama about Tetris. You remember the Tetris
Hmm.
that was on the Game Boy back in the '80s?
Yes.
It's starring Taron Erkington, which I know that's not his name, but anyway, is a Dutch entrepreneur. Is Hank Rogers. It follows the true story of how Rogers secured the distribution rights to the iconic video game during his travels to the Soviet Union, involving the KGB, the legal battles, the Cold War, Nintendo's Game Boy, the film, which is also features Toby Jones, other people we don't know. Basically, it will premiere South by Southwest on March 15th and will be available to stream on Apple TV March the 31st. It looks really good. Folks, if you get a chance, I don't, you don't have to be a gamer to enjoy this. This is really interesting. A lot of Cold War. I, it's unbelievable all that was involved. And I've heard a little bit about the story about
Mhm.
how he acquired Tetris, and it's really fascinating. So somehow I'm going to figure out how I can watch this thing. So
Yeah, I know. I want to see it as well. I'm just not sure how.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I don't know much about Apple TV as far as what they're if they can opt out, a subscription or something like that, get in and get out. So
Maybe there's a 7 day. That might be worth doing.
on it, speaking of streaming services, I don't know if you had a chance to hear, but Netflix sucks. I mean, Netflix is lowering subscription prices in many countries, but not for the U.S. Apparently, their whole tactic about password restrictions, I think, is causing some bad press, and
Imagine that.
they're trying to have some goodwill. Unfortunately, not here in the United States. So I don't know what's behind that, uh, but so far countries, countries outside of the besides the United States, are apparently getting some kind of discount or love or something. I don't know. So it'll be
Interesting.
it will be interesting. So
Well,
it's pretty much
have you
yeah.
heard? Have you heard that Marvel is shifting the calendar again? Do you
Really
remember DC did this a few?
yes
We talked about it. I don't know, 6 months ago.
yeah
DC kept shuffling things. Well,
mm-hmm.
now Marvel is up to it. The
Oh
Marvels, starring Brie Larson, is now moving from July 28th
yeah
all the way to November 10th.
is
And along with that, there is some talk. that Secret Invasion and Loki are still expected to come out this year,
Hmm.
but there is talk that Echo, What If Season 2, and Ironheart may not release this year.
Really
Those were all supposed to come out this year.
interesting. Do you think this is because we talked about it last week, where Feige was trying to say, "Hey, we want to like not saturate the market, Disney Plus, with the shows, and kind of let some of these things shine." Is it their way, or is it
Sounds
really
like
my
that could be it.
that, or my or that, or spread it out enough what keeps people continuing to subscribe to Disney Plus?
I'm
I
not
think that
sure.
I'm not for sure which one that might be, but that would make sense. Some of that's kind of disappointing. It would have been nice to
A little
see,
bit.
but I am looking forward to Loki. That's one I really
Yep.
look forward to. Um, this is not on nerdy news. Apparently, the Ant Man, the latest Ant Man 3, seems like it's not doing that hot on the box office.
Well, that's it. It's an interesting take. Opening weekend, it actually did 120 million,
Uh huh.
which is two things. It is the best Ant-Man franchise opening so far.
Okay. Well,
And
okay.
apparently it was the best President's Day weekend ever for any film.
Okay.
However, this weekend it's tracking to drop about almost 70% off from
Oh,
its opening weekend. Yes. And I don't know uh, if that is from a lot of bad press. Because Rotten Tomatoes is, you know how Rotten Tomatoes is hit or miss.
yes, it
Um,
is.
and critics did not like this movie.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that. No, yeah,
yeah,
probably 83. Yeah, on the critic side, but as
yeah,
far as
48% of critics
yeah,
on the critic percentage, but for audience percentage, it was 83%, which isn't horrible. I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, that's no,
that's a good solid B.
yeah,
Um,
that is
you don't expect Ant-Man to be the tent pole character for Marvel
no,
anyway.
no.
You know, there's a reason they opened it in February instead of the summer.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but you know, I mean, so that's a respectable audience score.
yeah. I
But
agree with that.
the drop second weekend could
Hmm.
mean that you know that it's not one of those movies people are going to go back and see again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, there's in this particular, I haven't seen it yet. Uh, there's a lot of I think there's a lot setting up for this next phase, from my
Yes,
understanding with this. So
a
I
lot of
think
the critics, a lot of the critic reviews said they would make comments like this: the
mhm.
movie's pretty good, but it suffers from being a movie that is to set up a bunch of other that has to set up a bunch
Yeah,
of other things in the
yeah,
future, and that it is a CGI spectacular, you know, but not the kind of CGI spectacle that um Avatar was.
didn't it have to compete with Avatar? No, it came out in separate times, or did it?
Um, well, Avatar is still in some theaters,
Okay, I
but
don't know how well it's doing. So
Avatar did fantastic. It owned
yeah,
the box office for 6 or 7 weeks straight.
yeah, it's
And
impressive.
then Ant-Man came out, and then Avatar was like, I mean, still hitting like 20 or $30 million in a weekend,
Yeah,
which is still,
yeah,
you know, really, really good for a movie that came out 8, 9 weekends ago.
yeah.
So Avatar is still going strong in that vein. But
Okay.
you know, we'll have to see. The I was actually just looking at Box Office Mojo,
Hmm.
um, and where did I do with it? So, like this weekend, I mean, it looks like Ant-Man's going to hit around 35 million,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't sound bad, but it's that it's that second weekend drop. It's such a steep curve,
Yeah. Yeah.
that makes it pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Cocaine Bear is coming in
I,
second
I
place this
I
weekend,
know. I know exactly. I
and
saw that.
it's going to hit 20 million. So Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't double Cocaine Bear of all things. Um, and I believe cocaine. I think this weekend is Cocaine Bear's weekend opening. Um, I mean, even a Christian film, Jesus Revolution, just
Hmm.
came out, and it's doing. It's going to do 13, 14, 15 million this weekend,
Oh yeah.
something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, for a Christian film, that's pretty good for an opening weekend.
Yeah.
Um, and then Avatar is trailing, and Avatar is still going to come out over 5 million this weekend.
Yeah. That's. I mean, as long. Well, it's been out for a while, so yeah. I-
Now there is something else that I read. Now this is not
mm,
this one I have to take with a grain of salt because I don't know where they come up with these numbers. But there are reports that Shazam: Fury of the Gods
mhm.
may only do 35 or 40 million its opening weekend. I I can't imagine it will be that low.
How can they predict that?
I don't know. And it's still got like 3 or 4 more weeks.
Yeah.
Um, maybe they're thinking lack of publicity. I'm not sure where they're getting that idea from, but that just seems
Yeah.
really, really low. I'd have to go back and look to see what um,
Yeah. I wondered with the first one
opening
how the
weekend
first one.
was for
Yeah.
uh, sh- the first Shazam movie. Let me look
Because it
real
was
quick.
pretty It was. It's almost like a you know DC's version of a Marvel film. It was very family friendly, and one thing about it, it's kind of it can. I think it can survive out of the
Well,
outside of the DC universe. But
okay, so opening weekend domestic was
mhm.
only 53 million
Oh
for the
wow,
first Shazam. So, yeah, I guess so saying it's going to make 35 or 40 isn't unreasonable, I guess. I mean,
that's
it's a little sad that it's going to be that they're thinking it's going to be lower than the
mhm.
first Shazam opening.
Yeah,
But I, I don't know. That's an interesting situation with it being it's the first movie was pre-COVID, the
yeah,
second movie is post-COVID,
yeah,
so all movie expectations are slightly lower, except for
yeah.
Avatar was expected
Mhm.
to blow up.
Huh.
So I'm interested to watch that one. We'll have to give it. I can't remember when it opens. Mid-March, I believe. So
Gotcha.
we'll have to report back on that one when it releases.
Interesting. Huh.
Actually, I this is an interesting thing for me. I think you and I are doing this show. We're
Mhm.
recording right now. We've moved our recording time to Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
That actually means that on opening weekend, we can look at Thursday, Friday, Saturday box office opening receipts
Oh, there you
and
go.
not have to
Make it
wait
kinda
till
nice. Yeah,
and not
exactly.
have to wait till the next week to find out how it did.
Exactly. That kinda nice. It's I think, prior to that, it was almost we were always kinda late in the game, right?
Yes.
So it does
Always felt
make
like we were so far behind. It was like, and so did it, such and such on its opening weekend. But nobody cares because there's a
nobody
whole new
cares
movie
because a
opening
whole new
the
movie
day
op yeah,
opened before we
exactly.
released our podcast.
We're trying, folks. We're getting there.
Ah,
So that's that's interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I really enjoyed Shazam. Thought it
yeah.
was a fun movie. So
Yep. We'll have to see.
we'll see.
I'm hopeful on that one.
Yeah. Well, I think we have some stupid news. Do we want to kick into that?
Let's do it.
All righty.
It's the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Well, in a bizarre turn of events, the residents and tourists of Santa Cruz are being warned to stay away from a rather unconventional danger lurking in the mist. That's right, it's Cookie Monster.
What?
That's right. That's right. That's right. The blue,
Oh my
furry,
gosh.
lovable Sesame Street character has taken on a sinister twist and has been harassing and frightening people of the Santa Cruz Wharf. The police department has issued a warning not to engage with the character, and for good reason. This Cookie Monster is no ordinary Muppet, but instead a man dressed up in a costume, and just not just any man, but the notorious character that is known as not the same person that we know, Adam Sandler, or he's also known in the Bay Area is Evil Elmo.
Evil Elmo. What in
That's
the
right.
world? Are
That's right. Evil. Yeah. Sandler's history is not pretty, to say the least. He's made a name for himself in San Francisco's Fisherman Wharfs as a street performer. When he terrorized locals and tourists alike in 2014, he was arrested for threatening a San Francisco food vendor, shouting, "I'm going to rip your throat out." Yes, from not the
okay?
kind of thing you want to hear from your children's character.
No.
It's not just San Francisco that had the dubious pleasure of accounting Evil Elmo either. He also has been in New York City, where he alleged using anti-Semitic slurs while dressed as Elmo in Times Square. In 2013, he was arrested for attempting and extort $2 million from his former employee, the Girl Scouts, and also was sentenced to a year in prison. It seems that no location is safe from the wrath of the blue furry creature, and he has been spotted in Los Angeles, Hawaii, and even as his hometown listed as Ashland, Oregon, although he claims he's done nothing. And so if you happen to see the Cookie Monster wandering around Santa Cruz or in your neighborhood, it'd be best to heed the warning of the police department and steer clear from this menace of society.
Oh my gosh.
Can you believe that?
That's funny. I wish I could find a photo really quick. I
Yeah.
have a photo of sad Big Bird in New York.
Oh, you do? That's
Yes.
funny.
When I was on a trip with my daughter to New York for her choir, and we were in Central Park, and there you could look over the ledge, and there was a Big Bird sitting on a park
Interesting.
bench with a box. It looked like he had just been fired. It's like he had a box of stuff. he just looked so sad.
Like he just got, was just fired and he has all his things from his cubicle in his box.
Oh my gosh.
That's
If I had
funny.
known you were going to do the Cookie Monster thing, I would have hunted down that photo so I
Oh,
could show it.
that is so funny and sad at the same time.
It is super sad.
Again, sad. And we have a next story that it shows humanity how sad it can really be. But here we go. In a shocking turn of events, a Georgia woman has taken her love for biscuits a bit too far. According to reports, Belinda Miller was arrested for crashing her vehicle into a Popeyes restaurant in Augusta because her order was missing her beloved baked goods. That's right. Now, we all know that biscuits are serious matter in the South, but this takes things to a whole new level. Miller allegedly became so irate at the lack of biscuit in her order that she hopped into her SUV and drove straight into the restaurant entrance.
Oh my
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Right, you want your
Oh my
biscuits.
goodness.
you don't have time to wait for your biscuits, but apparently you should not go through, of course, the entrance of a restaurant because you didn't get your biscuit. But anyway, continue to the story. But it doesn't stop there, folks. Despite the manager's attempt to rectify the situation, Miller apparently wasn't satisfied and almost hit an 18-year-old employee with her vehicle. Thank goodness she didn't. The arrest warrant even claims that Miller continued to drive into the building until she was stopped by debris.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I've known we've all heard of those moments where we were really looking forward to our favorite fast food fixings and they disappoint us. But this is taking things too far. We can only imagine what Miller's reaction would have been if they had run out of sweet tea. Yeah. And that is your stupid news.
This has been the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Oh my goodness.
Son of a biscuit.
That's right. Don't tee me off. Oh my goodness. So today we're going to talk about the Mando. This is our Mando 3 pre-show, and there's a lot of things to get caught up on. Just to get caught up, everybody out there. Of course, let's go ahead and do our spoiler alert for people who have not seen the previous Mandalorian or parts of Boba Fett. Boba Fett. I'm from this. So here's a brief story synopsis courtesy of Lucasfilm. The journeys of the Mandalorian through the Star Wars galaxy continue. Once a lone bounty hunter, Din Djarin has reunited with Grogu. Meanwhile, the New Republic struggles to lead the galaxy away from its dark history. The Mandalorian will cross paths with old allies and make new enemies as he and Grogu continues their journey. Now, wait, okay, didn't Din and Grogu part ways in season 2? Yes, but those who watched the book of Boba, not Bubba Fett, and for those who can't bother streaming it, they reunited later in the shows.
Water.
What's that?
You were going to make me spit water.
Reunited later shows season finale. In short, midway through the Boba Fett standalone series, or until Mando showed up in the episode 5, Luke offered Grogu a choice: stay with him to continue his Jedi training or go back with Din. Grogu opted the latter. Thus, Din and Baby Yoda joined forces again. We saw them fly off into a space in Din's new rebuilt Naboo starfighter, and in Boba Fett episode 7, paving the way for new adventures in The Mandalorian season 3. So that kind of gets you catch up, folks. But we're going to talk a little bit more that led up to this, and a little bit about the trailer, and a little bit about our predictions and what we would like to see and we hope doesn't happen. So anyway, here we are. And of course, kind of run down our cast. It has been confirmed, of course, Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, is going to be back, of course. Grogu, the Muppet itself, is back, of course.
Yes.
And, of course, Giancarlo Espinosto, which I never can pronounce, but a great actor as Moff Gideon, is confirmed to be back.
Moff Gideon is returning. I have been wondering about that.
Also, too, Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan is back. Carl Withers is also going to be back as Grief Karga. And Emily Swallow as the armorer will also be there. And of course, I can't pronounce this gentleman's names. Omid Apata as Dr. Pershing. Of course, we remember him from season 1. And also Amy Sedaris as Palo Mato, which does not look anything like I remember her playing. And Paul Sun-Young Lee as Carson Teller, which I really like that character, and to be announced, which is actually, is confirmed that Christopher Lloyd is going to play a character, as well as Tim Meadows, who was a previous cast member of Saturday Night Live. So there we go.
Interesting. Okay.
So So anyway, we've got a lot going on, and on top of that, Jones Fabio has revealed that they already have an outline for season 4 for the show, and it's actually it's complete. So they already have the script ready to go for season 4, and we haven't even started 3 yet. So that kind of tells you where we're at. That for me, it kind of tells me, okay, well, okay, the Mandalorian won't meet his demise.
Well, yes, that would
uh,
be
so that's kind of a
unlikely that Grogu or that the Mandalorian are going to die this season.
yeah. So there we go. I mean, that we got that to look forward to. So anyway, several things are there's several things we can talk about in this. Of course, Dave Filoni is working on also on another show as this is going on. I think they're going through the casting of Ahsoka, which he's producing.
Mhm.
And of course, it's being taken place within the same Star Wars period. Of course, Ahsoka's already been introduced in Mandalorian season
2.
2.5.
Yes.
No, actually, she was in
No, she was
Mandalorian
in
2.
season 2.
Yes, that's
She
right.
just came back in the book of Boba Fett.
So a lot of now, right now, we're in the timeline. Keep in mind, folks, this is like 5 years since the death of the Emperor and the destruction of the second Death Star. So we are in what they call the New Republic. It's approximately 25 years before the events of Force Awakening.
Mhm.
And in this situation, you have the New Republic. They govern the galaxy during this era. There's a lot of former rebel pilots and X-wings patrolling the Outer Rim. From my understanding, why and this is interesting. It says a little bit of information. It says in an effort not to be an in an effort not to become overly militarized, the New Republic, under the guidance of Mon Mothma, reduced their fleet by 90%. This leaves them
Hmm.
effectively just as a police in the Outer Rim. That's interesting. I always wondered
Interesting.
why. Okay, so I wonder why. So I guess getting away from, of course, from the very beginning, we go back to, the prequels where you have um, Chancellor Palpatine basically
Mhm.
uh, created this clone army and become militarized, which
Mhm.
a lot of people within the Senate didn't want happen, which eventually
Right.
turned into this tyranny. So I think this was their way to hopefully avoid that. But unfortunately, uh, a lot of warnings, a lot of things that types and shadows, and maybe of the new order that may come up 25 years later. So we'll be talking
Mm.
about some of that as well tonight. So anyway, any thoughts? We're in this process that comes to your mind that um, we might. What comes to your mind in season 3? And I know the only thing we have is coming from the trailers.
Mhm.
Uh, you know,
Watching the trailers, okay, so there are two things. One thing we absolutely know is going to happen based on the trailers.
yeah,
The He is going to go back to Mandalore
exactly. Yeah,
in some way, shape, or fashion. That is definitely going to happen.
yeah,
Um, he, based on what the trailers appear, he and Bo-Katan
hmm
are going to have some sort of conversation, and it looks like it's probably happening on Mandalore. Maybe like 75% sure that's where they're at.
Well, and also, it looks like, of course, this goes back to kind of going back, kind of the elephant in the room, which is the book of Boba Fett. It's there's a the book of Boba Fett had a lot of grief, and
Yeah.
also it was not well received by the audience.
Hmm.
Oh, I was fine, but it was a bit slow and had a lot of plot holes in it. And they had some great characters that came out of it, I
Yeah.
believed.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
but for most people, who have not seen the Book of Boba Fett, at least episode five on up, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
um, are they going to be able to really understand what's happening?
That is a good question. I Well, okay, so there is a scene that has been released, and it appears that it's probably episode 1, where um the Mandalorian goes and he talks with um Carl Weathers' character.
Yes.
I can't remember or pronounce the name correctly. But he goes and talks with Carl Weathers' character,
Yeah.
and he says, "Why do you still have that?" I don't remember if he called him a creature or critter or something.
Yeah.
Calls
Something
him
like
something
that.
like that. And the Mandalorian says it's a long story. Um, but my guess is there will be some bit of
Reference.
either, yeah, either some explanation, like he'll have to tell the story to somebody
Yeah.
so that it makes sense, or they'll just brush it over with a previously on the Book of Boba Fett,
Well, and
and
that's
they'll,
some. Yeah.
so I think people will be able to catch up quickly, either because they'll have some explanation bit written into the
Yeah.
script, or they'll have that bit, basically the 2 or 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett that
Yeah.
explain what happened, um you know make all that make sense.
Which I think can be done pretty kind of in a nice bow, especially the
Yeah.
whole previously happened. I mean, you think about it. The Book of Boba Fett. It was, I forget how many episodes, maybe 3 episodes that had to do with Grogu and
Mhm.
you know choosing Din
But yeah, you kind of had
over.
2 episodes that were very Grogu and Mandalorian centric.
Yeah.
And then you had the final episode where they reconnect briefly, and we see
Yes.
Grogu, stop the monster, stop the raging monster.
Yeah. Raging monster.
Yes, which is
Um,
super cute and funny.
yes.
But yeah, I think they'll be able to. I think most people will be able to catch up pretty quickly if they haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, I think
I
they'll
think
knock
so
that out
too.
quick.
I think, well, and also too, I mean, it was known within the Book of Boba Fett that the armorer found out that Din removed his helmet, which is a big no-no to their guild, and because of that, he was cast out.
Now, see,
Uh,
that's something he's going to have to explain at some point for those who
yeah,
didn't watch that.
yeah,
And that actually is probably going to be more expositional. I bet he'll have to explain, like, why are you going back to Mandalore? And
yeah,
he'll tell somebody, I removed my helmet.
yeah.
I'm disgraced, so now I have to go fix it.
It
Um,
almost feels like there might spend quite a bit of time on Mandalore. There's a lot involved in that. I don't know. Uh,
if they do, this will be less of a monster of the week. Like,
yeah,
season 1 was very much a monster of the week.
yeah,
There was, I have to go help the sheriff. I have to
yeah,
go, this bad guy showed up and I got to go deal with it. Oh, I've been sent on this mission to take Frog Lady. Well, that was season 2, but
yeah,
season 1 and season 2
yeah,
had a lot of those kind of mission or monster of the week kind of things. Uh, I feel like maybe this one won't be so much,
yeah,
because it needs to be his journey to
yeah,
redemption,
yeah,
or his journey to acceptance. And
yeah.
I'm not sure which it's going to be.
Because I
Do you
think right.
think this is going to be him redeeming himself to his Mandalorian cult,
Mm-hmm,
or him accepting that his Mandalorian cult was misguided in some
misguided.
way, and it's okay to take off my helmet from time to time?
I am hoping it's the latter, personally.
Hmm.
I think part of it too is that we're going to see. I think we're going to see more. I think Mandalorian is going to be more political because it goes to the ownership of the dark saber, and I
Yes.
think and that has not been addressed yet. We all know,
Yeah.
uh,
That
Din
has to be
is
resolved in some way, and that is going to be an interesting story.
yeah
Uh, what is your expectation there? Do you think that, based on the trailer, it does
yeah
appear there's a scene where you see Bo-Katan sitting on something that looks
and
a little like a throne,
yeah
and then there's a cutaway to Din Djarin, and they look like they are in the same place,
yeah
but they're not both in the same shot at the same time
yeah
in the trailer. So it's a little hard to know. Um,
yeah
but the conversation she's having sounds like the conversation she would have with him.
yeah.
So do you think she's going to battle him for it? Or do
I
you think somehow he's going to, well, okay. Do you think they're going to battle for it? And if not, what do you think is going to happen?
Going back to season two at the very end, Din wanted to give the dark saber
Right.
to Bo-Katan. Of course, the dark saber, the tradition is that it has to be battled to the death,
Hmm.
and that's something that Din did not want to do. He's, and I think this will have a lot to do with the politics in Mandalore.
Hmm.
Going back to what we talked about as far as the guild, will the Mandalorians come to the point too where this no longer needs to be tradition to be able to have to
Hmm.
battle, to the death who's going to become the leader.
Mm.
I have a feeling that there'll be some tension. I think there'll be more. I think there's going to be Bo Katan is going to feel pressure on those around her as a leader to stay with tradition. But I think Din is going to try to convince her that there's no reason for it, that you're a natural leader, and here you go. Belongs to you. We do know that in some of the trailers that we do see that Din is with several people.
Hmm.
In one particular scene, it looks like from the Night Watch, uh,
Yes.
and so and Bo Katan, who is was with the Night Watch,
Hmm.
and so anyway, I think somehow it will be resolved. I think Bo Katan, I would like to see. I think somehow this will be another iteration of looking at, is this something that we need to continue in tradition? Or do we give it to the person who has leadership ability, not the ability to take another life in the name of trying to become the leader through the dark saber? So I don't know.
That's actually a very interesting idea, because that means that Din, the Mandalorian, and Bo-Katan both have to come to grips with the same thing.
Yeah.
Because Bo-Katan thinks that Din is insane for being
Yes.
part of this cult and never
Yes.
removing
Exactly.
his helmet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They
and
refer to him in the old way of doing things,
yeah,
and
well, and she even says in the trailer, she says, "Your clan, your cult." She doesn't call them a clan; she calls them a cult.
cult. Yeah.
Your cult splintered Mandalorian, the
Yeah.
Mandalore.
Yeah.
Um, so she doesn't have a good view of them anyway. But that's
Yeah.
interesting that if he has to come to grips with not fully redeeming himself to his clan and his clan slash cult, does she have to come to grips with simply accepting the saber? Now there's another possibility, and I could see them going this way,
Mm-hmm.
especially since you said that Moff Gideon is returning.
Mm-hmm.
If Moff Gideon returns in power and somehow acquires the dark saber, Now Bo-Katan can fight for the dark saber against Moff Gideon.
Well, and that would make it a lot easier.
It would
I
make it a
mean,
lot easier for her to accept. Din is no longer just giving it to her.
mhm.
It fixes all of her problems, but I like your solution better because it means they both have to come to grips with this is the old way. We both have to accept a
Yeah.
new way. I
'Cause I think
like
the
that much better.
Yeah, because I think the other way, and I'm not going to say it's lazy writing. It's just it would be too easy. Moff Gideon getting the dark saber,
Yeah,
and then that would be, I don't think it should be that clean.
yeah, I
Um,
agree.
so I hope so too. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. Like I said, the trailer has a lot of I mean, we have Dr. Pershing. Why is he back? Is
Mm.
he, is he still working for, some warlord, or is he now employed by um, the fledgling empire, or whatever's left from that?
As much as I don't want to admit it, this all still points to the cloning of the emperor.
It's interesting that you said that because this was, and I can't remember when this was. It refers back to, they had some flashbacks, of course, and of course in the
Hmm.
trailer there was flashbacks to the attack of the temple, the
Yes.
Jedi temple. So there again, this is going to somehow be in the flashback. They're still going to continue some flashback and maybe some reveals that happened
Hmm.
during Order 66.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we might find out who actually saved Grogu from
I
what
think
happened.
I think so too. I think that will be what that scene is.
There were some rumors I was reading, and I thought, well, that I can't see that happening. Maybe a lot of people are saying maybe was Mace Windu, but if, of course, in the movie, I don't know how they would make that happen because Mace Windu
He went out the window.
went out the window. Unless they do something creative where he actually didn't
he
die, but
he survived somehow.
somehow, landed on one of those little speeders and
As much as I hate somehow, that is kind of a Star people always they complain about that line
yeah,
that the emperor came back somehow.
yeah,
But
it's an
Star Wars
unnatural.
is based on somehow.
Yeah,
Everything in Star Wars is somehow.
exactly.
Somehow Han and Chewie fly into the Death Star, manage to fly into the Death Star trench and spook the TIE fighters just enough. Mind you, it took everything that those X-wings had to just
Yeah,
get to the trench, but
yeah.
Han and Chewie just show up
Oh, yeah, at the
somehow.
last time saving, yeah, the cavalry
You know,
came.
yeah, there's just so many somehows.
Yeah,
And it's like, we didn't go we went looking for the rebel base on
yeah,
Alderaan, and somehow we came across the princess in the Death Star.
exactly.
Everything in Star Wars
Yeah,
is somehow.
so yeah, when has Star Wars became a something that people can nitpick about plot holes? I mean, that was never meant to be something that was so detailed. I mean, I don't know, but it's interesting. You're going to have these. I mean, Star Wars fans can be the most toxic people. They fight each other over Star Wars. I love the memes that talk about Star Trek fans versus Star Wars fans. Uh,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's fun. It's just one of those kind of things where some things you just have to let be. And so,
Yes.
but going back to your talking about clones, I cloning. I think it
Yes.
goes back to I want to say maybe it was Boba Fett, the book of Boba Fett. because there was a scene that where we talked about where there was a clone that looked a lot cloning. It looks a lot like Snoke's,
Mm,
and if
yes.
I don't know if you remember that scene, but this is where a lot of people feel like this is the beginning of making it, to the sequels in the
Hmm.
timeline 25 years later.
Yeah.
So, and what's interesting is that, kind of looking, that 25 years where the orders became
Hmm.
a powerhouse within the galaxy. Um, what was the actors? I can't remember the guy who was the former stormtrooper. I can't remember his name. Within
You're talking
I
about
think
Finn in in the
Finn in
okay.
now when he really didn't have. What I'm interested in knowing is that, because we know that going back to the old republic,
Hmm.
well, yeah, the old republic, where clones, they were
Hmm.
cloning, for the soldiers, and then all of a sudden
Right.
it became just normal recruits. After that, cloning had stopped
Which we're seeing in the Bad Batch.
in the Bad Batch.
Hmm.
And so, but there's some indications to me that they may have been the new order may have started doing some cloning again, because a lot
Oh.
of them and I may be totally wrong, but like Finn, his name was not Finn. He had a designated number. And that, remember, there was a point where he held back from the orders of coming against these settlers or these villagers where they first came out, and they just started taking these people out in the first movie. And he said, "We need to take you back." And I don't know if he was redoctrinate you or something about taking them back. And it's almost like a flash. We're going to have to reboot you
Hmm.
somehow, not in so many
Gotcha.
words. So I don't know. It's interesting, and I
Well,
don't know. I may be totally wrong on that.
Star Wars fandom.com
Yeah.
says that they say that, I'm not sure if Star Wars fandom.com is as reliable as Wikipedia. I'd have to
Yeah.
go look at Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But it claims that there aren't clones, but they are trained from a very, very, very early age,
Okay.
to the point that they don't have identity outside of their training, which would be much more in line with how the Jedi's did things.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, and that was the other thing I was thinking, because clones usually all look the same, and
Mhm.
so even though yeah, so I think that, but it was interesting because I am interesting how the whole cloning process is going on, like Snoke's, and
Mhm.
is this also the way
Is
Palpatine
Snoke
comes back?
well, that's why I was thinking it just now, was is Snoke a failed Emperor clone?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean that's something to think about. I hadn't even thought about that, but
Yeah, I've not read that anywhere. That
yeah,
just came to mind just now. Um, but I think I'm I don't like the fact that the Mandalorian is really wrapped up in this Emperor comes back somehow storyline.
I am not.
But
I
it
really would.
is. It
Yeah,
is. It
to an
has,
extent.
because the cloners are chasing down Grogu,
Yeah.
trying to get, figure out how or what, I mean, okay, so this is another weird, I'm just pulling crap out of my head. So is Grogu really whatever he is, or is he a clone of Yoda?
Well, that's a thought. I mean, who
You know,
knows?
if
Uh,
if Grogu is a successful clone of Yoda, even more so they would want to get a hold of him.
for the longest time, I didn't realize Yoda's species. I didn't realize there were others out there. Um, until, of course, again they brought in the canon of um, what was it, Tales of the Jedi. And of
Mhm.
course, in Tales of the Jedi, there was another species, just like Yoda, was a female, and of
Yes,
course,
Yaddle.
Yaddle. So
Well,
that
and
was a
she's in the prequels. I
oh,
don't
that's
think
right.
she
She
ever
was,
I don't think she ever says a
yeah, okay.
word, but
We've had
she's
this
sitting on
conversation
the yeah,
before. Yeah, that's right.
she's sitting on the council, but
I
it is super brief. It's kind of like she is outside of now we've actually seen her a little bit in action because she
yeah.
has lines in Tales of the Jedi. Um, in the prequels, it's more like she's there just like the aliens from ET are in the prequels.
I was reading also in some fandom, some they were saying, will the armor, in fact, have will be some of a, I don't know, will be a baddie if something happens where Din, um, if he changes his mind. I mean, if there's if he tends to turn into Bo-Katan, and he falls into more in line of what they believe,
Oh,
then
now
will he?
that could be interesting
Yeah,
if now this is super convoluted, I think,
yeah.
but here's another possibility. Din gives the dark saber to the armorer,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then the armorer takes it and declares that she is the new ruler, and then she ends up fighting Bo-Katan
Bo-Katan.
for control.
I
And
can see that.
there is a big
I can see
fight.
that.
There's a big Mandalorian fight,
Yeah.
and some things I read said that that fight is happening. It's a new fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how do I say this? It's not a flashback to Mandalore.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is something that's happening now. So
Yeah.
at some point along the way, there is going to be a clash of Mandalore culture,
Yeah.
and I think it may be Mandalore against Mandalore, and
Another
that
civil
could be
war, which
yeah,
brought
and that
which,
could be it.
yeah, yeah, which was one of the original ways that they fell to the empire. They fought against themselves. They
Yep.
different sects, and then as far as uh, you know against the empire. So it's who knows, and I don't know if Mandalore will ever reach it. I really doubt, because we don't hear anything in the post Republic, or
Yeah.
I don't think Mandalore will ever be reunited. I think it will be
Or if
kind of
they
a
are, I
tragic
don't think
story.
they won't be considered a major player in
Yeah,
galactic politics just
yeah,
because they haven't been. If they
yeah,
were, you would think we would have seen them in the sequel trilogy.
yeah. Exactly. There would be some kind of reference to that, or yeah, and question there is, and I think, of course, in the trailer we don't see some of these surprises that may happen. Like, are we going to see, uh, Ahsoka Tano? Is
Mm,
she going to show up? Are we going to see any previous? Um, are we going to see anything that leads to? Because we all know that, especially in the second season of The Mandalorian, that Ahsoka
mhm.
Tano was after, and the first time we've ever heard the name Admiral Thrawn come out verbally within this
Yes.
series. And so something that was not canon, that was legend, now is canon now, because his name was spoken in the
Mhm.
second one, and she is after him. And of course, a lot of people believe the reason she's after him is to find Ezra Bridges, which
Yes.
is, of course, is in in the animated series of the Rebels, but there's also they had confirmed, and I can't remember the actor's name who's supposed to play Ezra Bridges, and I can't remember his name. Uh, I don't know if I have that information or not. I don't. If I do, I can't find it. But anyway, so or that's going to all just happen when Ahsoka comes out. I know a lot of times, you know, they may do type of a cliffhanger to lead you to another show because I think they're
Mm-hmm.
working to do these crossovers. So it'd be interesting. Of course, if that's the case, are we going to see another Mandalorian, Sabrina, who is also a Mandalorian? And if you've
Mm.
seen the end of the Rebels, Sabrina also Sabine Wynn and Ahsoka actually they leave together to go after
Mm-hmm.
to um, try to save Ezra Bridges,
Ezra.
Ezra Bridges, and because apparently between him and Thrawn having a battle and space whales.
Love
Uh,
me some space whales.
yes, if you haven't seen the Rebels, that's a reference to the end of the basically the end of the last episode and our one of our favorite Star Trek films, Voyage Home. Uh,
Oh my
anyway,
gosh.
but not to our Trekkie fans. So yeah, so I think there's some other things. Are we going to see? And I because we still don't know what's going to happen. Are we just going to forget about what happened to one of my favorite new characters? Was Legend in the Legend Star Wars, but one of my favorite characters that came out of the Book of Boba Fett is Cobb Vanth, which I
Yes.
really like. And of course, the last time we saw him, he was being modded because he was shot by Bane, which Bane was killed by, uh, by Boba, which
Yeah. And
which I think it was
we
kind of a
have
loss. Yeah,
we have speculated that rather than Boba Fett taking the position to lead, um, is it Mos Espa or Mos Eisley? Mos
I think
Espa?
it. Yeah,
Mos Espa?
I believe so.
Rather than him taking the position of leadership, we speculated that he will turn that over to Cobb Vanth.
But it makes sense because they made a reference in that series in the Book of Boba Fett that
Yeah,
they really,
somebody else. Yeah, I have
yeah,
a plan, or I don't remember if he says I have a plan or something else in mind, and then we see the cutscene to Cobb Vanth being modded.
being not. So they
So
had to, yeah.
yeah, I'm I hope we get to see more of that story.
I
I
really
would
like
love
that.
to see a Cobb Vanth series.
I think so. Timothy, I can't remember his last name, starts with an O, Olimont or something like that. Really
Mhm,
good actor. I liked him in the show Justified. He has this
mhm.
really everyman Western type of, I
Yep.
don't know, this feel about him that I would really like to see him in his own series. And I think Star Wars fans are hungry for different stories besides always involving the Force. I mean, there's a lot of different stories out there. Um, I think they were also mentioning the Skeleton Crew, and I forget. From my understanding, supposed to be some crossovers from that. Now I can't remember. Skeleton Crew that's not an animated series,
No,
is it?
that's going to be live
That's a
action,
live action,
and
and
that's
because
going to
Jude
be,
Law is going to be in that,
yeah,
from my understanding.
Jude Law leading a group of like kids or teenagers, younger people.
Younger people,
So
yeah,
I don't know how that one's even going to fit in with this universe.
yeah. How are they going to cross over this stuff? Or I think thing too that they have to be careful is too much crossover.
Hmm.
Sometimes too, because
You get the
can you do
small
too much?
universe.
Yeah, can you do too much fan service? I think
Hmm.
Andor showed, which had a critically successful, I mean,
Hmm.
acclaimed, showed that you could stand on your own
Yeah.
without bringing in. other well-known characters from the Star Wars universe. There was a few like Mon Mothman, but she's not what we called main players, like the
Yeah,
A list players out there, So, and who knows in the second season of the Andor,
she could play a bigger role.
bigger role.
Well,
But
honestly, if she played a bigger role in something, um, it would be probably her biggest role.
I would agree. Yeah,
As
yeah,
as
yeah,
as
yeah,
important as important as she is to the Republic and to the Resistance, um, she's such a small character
yeah,
in the actual
exactly.
productions.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah,
she's this great leader. It would be
yeah,
nice to see her, get to lead.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot. There's a lot here that's setting up for the future sequels. I like again the information we were reading about 90% Mothman reducing their fleet to 90%.
Hmm.
It's because I always had this weird feeling. Okay, we have the New Republic. We're talking about during the time of the
Hmm.
New Order. Okay, we have the New Republic. Okay, but then why are there resistance in the New Republic? Don't you have a Republic army? And this makes more sense now, understanding that
Yes.
well, there's a resistance because the New Republic basically policed the galaxy and kind of looked the other way, while these resistance they see the real threat, like
Yeah.
Taver, who is one of the patrolling X-wing fighters, because even within I believe he sees that there's something happening in the outer rim. He sees there's a darkness and he cannot convince his superiors. I think you're going to see a little bit of him trying to convince that there's danger out there, but
Hmm.
he's no one's really listening to him with any kind of credentials or credibility, you know?
Yeah, they keep dropping these little bits and pieces that are going to tie into things that we've already seen in later films.
Yeah.
That may have been the most convoluted sentence I've ever made. Things
It's
we're going to see that
yeah.
will lead in
Yeah.
to later films that have already happened. Um,
Exactly.
so, and
Whether you
I
like
get
whether you like them or not.
whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
We're building to those points, but I don't want this show to get taken over by those so much
I agree.
that that has to be what the story is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't want to get too. It's okay to make a couple of knots to it,
Mhm.
but I like to know more about because this is the time of Luke Skywalker, the Jedi Temple, bringing back
Mhm.
the school, teaching the young Jedi's, which whether they touch it or not, it doesn't really bother me. I just you know keep certain stories and open up the galaxy like Van
Mhm.
Cobb stories like that. Skeleton Crew, which sounds like it's kind of be in that kind of a vein storytelling.
Mhm.
So maybe some of these obscure characters that we've learned about in the legends, the ones that are not canon. That sounds like to me that the Disney or Star Wars was kind of bringing some of these legend characters back,
Mhm.
but weaving them in the way they want to within their canon
Yeah.
story, which is fine with me. I would love to see some of those. I didn't realize Van Cobb was actually uh, in some of the novels, especially had
Mhm.
to do with bounty hunting and stuff like that. So, but anyway, and on another note too, when we're talking about our Christopher Lloyd, what part do you think he's going to play in this?
I have no idea. I, my
Is he going to be
guess
a
is,
Klingon?
oh my gosh, I didn't even that had not even occurred to me that now Christopher Lloyd has been a in Star Trek and in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Uh, so yeah, I have no idea. He's such a weird actor in general.
yeah, yeah,
I kind of hope he's just a character for one episode just
exactly.
because they think it's kind of cool and kitschy
Yeah.
to have him be there. I
Yeah, I
I
mean, just a
don't
very small part.
yeah, I don't know that I wanna see him as a recurring character.
Yeah, he doesn't
Um,
fit for me for some reason.
yeah.
I think it'd be distracting. I think it would
Mhm,
kinda take some people out of it. I may be totally wrong, but I think that's the thing I liked about Star Wars is that they take obscure actors or
mhm,
actors that you wouldn't normally think be in that universe, and they bring them in,
mhm.
and
And
they
turn him into icons.
icons, yeah. So and I think that was the thing I always enjoyed about Star Wars. You never had, well, until the sequels, um, bring in big names that, and I'm talking about, when I say big names, I'm not talking about the return of Carrie Fisher and the
Yeah,
original. I'm thinking some other things, but
right, yeah.
yeah,
I'm with you on that. Star Wars has made a really good run of bringing in I don't know if B-list is the right word, but actors that are really good,
hmm hmm
but haven't had huge careers yet.
yeah,
And making them into stars. You
yeah,
know, I have never really I get tired of seeing the same actor
yeah,
over and over again in every film. You
yeah,
know, in every genre, in every film. Um, there's some actors that are so prolific. I'm just like, can we not just get somebody else?
yeah. No,
Just
exactly right.
just get
Yeah,
us somebody new. There's got to be people out there that are in little indie films that are
yeah,
really
yeah,
good actors that just haven't had the chance to
yeah,
launch yet. But I know that's a studio thing.
yeah. Well, I
Studios
mean,
want
yeah,
big name actors so they can put them on the posters
yeah.
because the big name actors will draw the crowds.
Yeah, and sometimes that's their
In
mindset
theory.
in theory. But I mean, but you look at some of the actors like Harrison Ford. He was just a cabinet maker, kind of a stagehand, and then after
He'd been
that,
in a
he was
couple of movies that
yeah.
had done well, but not he wasn't a household name.
Then
Yeah.
suddenly he breaks out with Steven Spielberg and
Yep.
Indiana Jones, and the rest is history for him. And you see some of that, like even in the sequels, you have
Mhm,
Oscar Isaac, which is a phenomenal actor, and he's
mhm.
had some great films. And in Marvel, I'm Moon Knight, which was really one of my favorites that I've
Oh,
seen.
yeah.
Of course, Adam Driver.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. I don't really follow him. He doesn't really fit the things that I'm interested in.
I was
But
gonna say most of the movies he's been in are not movies that I'm overly excited about.
yeah,
Just not the kind of movies I would have gone to see in the past.
exactly.
But he's a really good actor.
Yeah, he really
I
is.
think he was a pretty good choice for that part.
Yeah. So I mean, um, but getting back to the Mandalorian, like we
We
talked
drift.
about, huh?
We
Yeah,
drift.
we drift. That's what we do here. But back to the Mandalorian, um, I think there's going to be a lot of things. I think we'll have some, Fabio said we're going to have some surprises.
Mhm,
What those surprises are, I don't know. That's kind of what we've talked about. I'm sure they're keeping a lot of things under wraps. And I'm sure we're going to see characters that we mentioned that will come out of the blue and maybe set
mhm.
up for another episode or a new series.
Yeah.
I just see that happening.
I I don't wanna see Boba Fett, and I don't
I
wanna see Luke Skywalker, and
no,
honestly, I don't even think I wanna see Ahsoka
not
show
yet.
up.
No,
I I want it to be the characters we've already built a story around. I
I want to
want
be.
to know
Yeah.
more about them,
hmm
the new people that we don't know, I want them to just be little bits, you know,
Hmm.
that come into a episode and leave. Um, I want to know more about the characters you've already built.
I agree.
Tell me more about this story.
Exactly.
Quit trying to make it bigger.
Yeah. Ahsoka can start off with its first season and do the crossover from there.
Yeah,
Uh, it's a name that people are going to watch, and
absolutely.
so I have nothing else. I really enjoyed talking about this. I hope the listeners also enjoyed the conversation. It starts March 1st, which man,
Yes,
so I'm excited about that, and we'll probably talk more about that after March 1st as well. We'll probably do maybe a couple shows on it. Not for sure, but we'll talk about it. Um, you can catch us on speakingnerdy.com. That's where we have our YouTube page. You can watch us. You can also listen on any of your favorite podcast streaming services. We're on all of them.
absolutely.
And I think probably have a new drop. We used to come out on Tuesdays, but because of our chaining,
Probably going
so
to release Wednesday or Thursday.
yeah,
I'm going to
so
try to drop this one on Wednesday just
yeah,
because it's same day as the show. But
yes,
so I'm going to aim for Wednesday on this one. Probably going forward, we're going to be dropping on Thursday.
yes.
Just so if you've been wondering.
Yes. Yes. And if we do, and that's an interesting thought. I mean, of course, before we've done some series where we follow a certain series that we enjoy and we talk about them every week. I
Mhm.
don't know if that's what we decide with the Mandalorian, but we will let you folks know. So, uh,
Absolutely.
I have nothing else. Check us out. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We've been having some growth on TikTok. We're also on Facebook. We have a Facebook group as well,
Mhm.
Speaking Nerdy. So check that out. And been fun. Anything else you want to add to that, Ricky?
I don't have anything else, my friend. I'm looking forward to Wednesday.
Me too. And we will see you folks next time.
With your
And,
host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
and my good friend, Mr. Ricky Poe. Well, we did pretty good up to that point.
That was funny. That was funny. I don't know if you noticed, but I actually pushed the intro video and then I had to switch it to the outro video
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, that's what we
because
do.
we are pros on this show
Uh, well-oiled machine.
always.
Especially a well-oiled. I need to figure out how to get my wife's lips to open up. Maybe better to be shut. That way I don't have to get yelled at. I don't know.